Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I would like to call our county commissioners for Nash County meeting to order at this time for June the 6th of 2022. It is customary for us to begin each one of our meetings with a prayer by a sitting commissioner. And during this time, you're welcome to stand and join us in the prayer. You're welcome to use it for your own prayer if you like, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence, whatever your heart leads you to do. And then we always like to do a pledge of allegiance to the flag as well. I'll call on Commissioner Outlaw to do that. And at this time, I'll call on Commissioner Wilkins to lead us in the invocation.
Let us all pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for those that have assembled here today. Thank you for the citizens who will voice concerns, for the department heads and employees that work hard each day to present information to this board to enable us to make informed decisions. Dear God, as we listen today, help us all keep an open mind and a compassionate heart to make the decisions needed to move Nash County forward and to protect the citizens we serve. Lastly, Lord, but surely not least, many gathered a week ago today to honor our military who paid the ultimate sacrifice. On this day, 78 years ago, help us to remember and honor those American soldiers that, along with Allied forces, stormed the beaches of Normandy, France on what is known as D-Day. God rest their souls and bless the families. All this we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
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 Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. At this time, we're on item number 4 on the agenda, which is approval of our minutes for the month of May and early meeting in June. It is a total of 5 sets, so we are real busy in May each year. But we have 5 sets of minutes, and hope you've had a chance to look through those. And whenever Commissioner is ready, we'll entertain a motion for any corrections, any additions, or if everybody's satisfied, a motion to approve as submitted. Move for approval. Moved by Commissioner Outlaw for approval of all 5 sets. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved. Madam Clerk, thank you as always. We are now on item number 5, which is for public comment. If there's anyone here today that wishes to speak to the board about any item that's not on the agenda, we would ask you to come forward at this time. We do have a sign-up period out front before the meeting. I did not have anyone to sign up this morning, but if you missed that part and you're here, wish to speak to the board about an item that's not on the agenda, we'd be glad to hear from you if you would come forward and state your name and address for the record at this time. Seeing no movement, we'll close that portion out and we'll go to item number 6 on the agenda, which is Trillium Health Resource Annual Report to the Board of Commissioners. And very pleased to have Dave Peterson with us again this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Been
everybody.
a busy year, I bet.
Yes, it's been very, very busy. And thank you again for letting me present to you each year like we have the past, I think, 4 years with Nash County now. So
Great.
You'll see in my report, you've started a trend, okay?
Okay.
So thank you very much. And let me, how do I go to the, okay. So we're going to hit on our mission statement, which is transforming lives and building community well-being through partnership and proven solutions. Talk a little bit about who we are. Medicaid transformation, I'm going to be spending most of the time on that. Some organizational changes that then impact that, and some county data. I first want to start with saying thank you to Commissioner Cohn, who's been serving on our regional advisory board, also with Amy Hamlet, and she's been on our regional advisory board too. Stacy's been very helpful and working with us in budget-wise and that sort of thing, so thank you all for assisting with that. And I just also want to introduce Eric Boone, who is our System of Care Coordinator for Nash County, and so he's with us today. So a little bit, those of you that are new to us or us new to you, we are 28 counties. I was standing before you last year and we were 26, but now we're 28. About 1.5 million total population, about 244,000 Medicaid eligible individuals. Last year, we served over 58,000 folks. And then about 70% of those individuals had mental health needs, 20% had substance use disorder, and 10% had intellectual or developmental disabilities. We contract to do those services with over 500 agencies to do that. Our total spending on services last year was almost $476 million. We serve the smallest county in the state, which is Terrell County, and our largest county is New Hanover County, which covers over 12,000 square miles. You'll see on this next slide is our map, and I always want to point this out to folks. In our northern region, the darker green, that's 11 counties, but the total population is only about 250,000 people in those 11 counties. But then you go to the central region, which is Nash, all the way out to Dare County. We have 9 counties in there, and it's twice the size, almost 500,000 people. And then in our southern region, it's 8 counties now, and their total population is almost 800,000 folks. So if you see the difference in our regions even, with 11 counties in the north, only 250,000, and 8 counties in the southern region, almost 800,000. So I look back at my notes, and I started talking with you all in 2018 about this change that the state has been making on moving individuals that we serve to private insurance companies. And so it officially went live in July of last year, and I've talked about standard plans, and those standard plans are AmeriHealth, Blue Cross, United, WellCare, and Carolina Complete Health. They are serving the mild to moderate risk individuals now, like we had been doing for many, many, many years, all right? And when they started, those individuals moved over to those insurance companies. There was some glitches in that, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So what we had was 7 managed care organizations, Trillium being one of them. One of those managed care organizations, Cardinal Innovations, decided to merge with VIA, which is out in the western part of the state. So we're down to 6 tailored plans. We're called a tailored plan. And I've been around a long, long time. There used to be 41 of us. And in 2001, the legislator said, we're going to get you down to 3 or 4. Well, they've got us down to 6 right now, okay? So we are continuing to have to merge according to what legislators are asking us to do. In that consolidation that Cardinal had with VIA, they covered 20 counties. The difference in this one was the legislator said to each one of those counties, you can choose which managed care organization you want to go to. You don't all have to go to VIA in the western part of the state. So what was good about that, Halifax County in the eastern part of the state said, we don't want to be managed by the western part of the state where VIA is. Can we join Trillium? And so Halifax County joined us in December 1 of 2021. In that process, since the state was opening up the door for counties to change, Bladen County also put in a request to join Trillium. And so they joined us on February 1. And so with that being said, Nash County, about 4 years ago, started that, and then Columbus County 2 years ago, and now Bladen and Halifax. So we've gone from 26 when we originally started to, I'm sorry, 24 when we originally started, to 28 counties. So now that the state has pushed the standard plan and tailored plan process to go live, they've moved back our date. We were supposed to go live with a tailored plan managing the whole person, not just the mental health side, but also the physical health. They've pushed that back to December 1st because they've seen some glitches that the insurance companies went through, and they're trying to get those straightened out before we go live. This now is the map of the standard plans, or I'm sorry, the tailored plans, and you can see the very light green is Trillium, okay? So we obviously have probably the largest land mass coverage of the other managed care organizations, but I always use this example. The light pink is Alliance, and they have Wake County, and in this transfer of counties, they also got Mecklenburg County. So now they manage the two largest counties in the state. And if you just take Wake County and Johnston County, their total population is more than all 28 of our counties, all right? So it's a totally different style of how they have to manage folks in those highly populated areas versus what we have to do in our very, very rural areas. So what we're doing right now, the state is getting ready to do what they're calling a readiness review. And it's scheduled now for July 13th and 14th. They're going to come out and review us to make sure, like we have been doing for many, many years, we manage the severe mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance abuse services, but we're now going to be managing those individuals' physical health, which we have never done before. So there's a learning curve on our part. We're going to be managing their physical health. What does that mean? That means now we're going to be contracting with over 2,000 pharmacies. Your pharmacy, we're going to have a contract with, because we now need to do the medication management for those individuals, all right? We're also going to be having to contract with all the primary care physicians and doctor's offices that serve Medicaid. Most of the doctor's office in the eastern part of the state, they do Medicaid and private insurance also. So we'll be contracting with almost every one of the primary care offices in the eastern part of the state. Big change for our management piece. So we've had some organizational changes. Lisa Wainwright, who's been our CEO for over 10 years, retired, and Joy Futrell, who's been working with us for over 30 years, is now our new CEO. Joy, some of you met at the ribbon cutting for the mobile clinic a couple months ago. Richard Leisner decided to get a job up in Washington, D.C., and so we hired a new attorney, Sinitria Goodman, for our general counsel. And then we made a decision to hire Sue Ann Forrest. If you have not met Sue Ann, you need to. She is our new Director of Government Relations. She's down in Raleigh almost every day working with our legislators. So our legislators know who Trillium is. We really want to make sure that we're pounding the doors of the legislators to not cut our budget anymore, because they've done that in the past, all right? So we've had to move staff around with this tailored plan, and so I'll talk a little bit about those moves. The requirements for this tailored plan, the state is saying we have to have 4 separate call lines now, which that means an increase of staff for our call centers. We have to have a pharmacy, because we're going to be contracting with 2,000 pharmacies, a separate line just for pharmacies. We're going to be having to have a separate line just for provider agencies, both physical health providers and mental health providers. We're going to have a nurses line and what we have today for our current call center. For anybody that needs help, folks can call in. Our care management staff are going to have to change. Right now, or for many, many years, they've just been managing the behavioral health side of things. Well, now they're going to need to be managing the physical health. So they're going to have to learn that system, and we're going to either have to hire new ones that know that system better so that they can manage the whole person. I also presented, we had our staff present at our regional board, and they recommended to every commissioner's presentation that I do, just say a few things about our disaster response unit. Hate to say it, but hurricane season just started. And as you saw the map, we cover all those counties on the water out there. And so we have 2 dedicated staff that no other managed care organization has set aside those FTEs, because we're very, very busy doing planning and orientation with emergency response centers, and then how do we respond when hurricanes come in. So we do make sure that we're doing a lot of marketing and communication and meetings with EMS and emergency response centers. So I'm just going to hit quickly on some of our project updates. Like every year, we're continuing to give out naloxone kits to law enforcement and to other entities too. So I usually leave that up to the county manager on where the Narcan and naloxone needs to go. Most of the time, they either say EMS and sheriff's departments, but I do have some other counties, sad to say, that they are wanting it in the schools, and that's tough, but to hear that. But they're seeing that the school risk is pretty high. So hopefully no overdoses happen in a school, hopefully no overdoses happen anywhere, but these do prevent that. You all had a mobile clinic right after the snow came in January. It was a little chilly that day. I appreciate folks that came to the ribbon cutting for that. They just started operating about 2 weeks ago. They finally have gotten the staff, and so they are in Nash County rotating around to the very, very rural pieces of Nash County. So folks that have trouble with transportation, they can now do services for them. We have begun a tribal engagement strategy, and so I'm taking the lead on that, and we're meeting with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians and a couple of the other tribes that are on the eastern part of North Carolina to see what their needs are in the mental health system. We are trying to make sure in this new transition, getting family navigators. Those are folks that have lived experience that can help us communicate and talk with families on what their needs and services need to be. We have started, and I think it was about a year ago in Nash County, a co-responder pilot, and the Sheriff's Department has been working on that with a provider that we have. And I think I saw, this was a while back on the news, the sheriff was talking about that co-responder pilot, where we have a staff person that's either in the Sheriff's Department or in the DSS to help go out on calls where it's obviously a mental health call. Our Consumer Family Advisory Committee, CFAC, the state is requiring us to add a representative that has traumatic brain injury, or TBI. That is another population that they're expanding us to oversee. And then lastly, on the projects, the Healing Place in New Hanover County, we think is going to be opening up now, and this has been about a 6-year project. It's going to be opening up 200 beds for substance abuse, 100 men, 100 women down in Wilmington. And if folks are familiar, there's one in Raleigh that has that same type of service, and so New Hanover County is opening that up. And I know that a lot of counties from all over the state will be utilizing those beds. So specific Nash County data for last fiscal year, Total folks served was 2,918. Those with a primary diagnosis of mental health were 2,266. Those with substance use were 623, and those with intellectual and developmental disabilities were 428. And I always say those numbers do not total up to 2,918 because many of these individuals are duly diagnosed. So that's the number, and I will plant the seed. Next year, I think these numbers are going to go down because we're only going to be serving the high-risk mental health folks because the insurance companies have taken over the low to moderate risk individuals. So, and that's my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Mr. Belfield?
Yes, with mental health issues on the rise nationwide, worldwide, wouldn't it be better you concentrate on that rather than getting into other health issue areas?
That's a very, very good point, Commissioner. This was directed to us by the state that we were going to be taking over the physical health. Now, on the counter side of that, the low to moderate risk individuals are going to be served by the insurance companies, and we'll still be managing the high risk, but you're exactly right.
Well, the insurance company, all they're going to do is provide the resources, well, the money, or pay for the services. What else are they going to do as insurance companies?
I would love you to ask that of those insurance companies.
I certainly will.
Yes, I would love you to ask that of them.
Yeah,
I'll say what we do with our savings, because we are a nonprofit government agency, we have to put that money back into services and supports, like the co-responder pilot, like your playground that you have, all those things. We're required to put that money back into the community.
Well, it seems, I don't know, sometimes the state's not on top of the issue like it should be. We need to help them.
Yes, I would agree.
Other questions from commissioners?
Just one quick, could you elaborate on that co-responder pilot program a little bit?
Yes. Integrated Family Services is a provider agency that has mental health clinicians that can go out on a call with the sheriff. And because a lot of times the sheriff probably knows, and their officers probably know the individuals that may have mental health issues, and because they get called to places repeatedly. And if they know that, then they're going to bring the licensed clinician with them on the call. So it does basically two things. It prevents the individual from getting hospitalized, and it prevents them from getting arrested. Because when you have a clinician talking to somebody, if they're agitated, versus, and nothing against law enforcement, but if law enforcement came up to me with a gun on their side and coming up to me and I had a mental health issue going on, I'd be scared. If someone, a licensed clinician, comes up to me without a gun on their side, then I would not have as much fear. But I would say that a lot of law enforcement officers are learning how to, and we do a 40-hour class on how to interact with people with mental health issues. And so that service, the co-responder pilot, is reducing folks from needing to get arrested or hospitalized because you have a licensed clinician going out on the calls with the sheriff.
So how many times have we used it?
That's a good question. I can look that up, and I'll get back to you on that. So,
And they do go out together?
yeah, so sometimes, I think they drive in separate cars,
Yeah.
but yes, they go out. Yep.
Okay.
But I'll try to look up the number for Nash County.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other comments, questions? Dave, there is a movement in the General Assembly towards expansion of Medicaid or Medicare. Senate seems to be further along than the House at this moment, but how will that affect you if it is finished up in the next long session?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's been on the table for 9 years,
Right.
and so this year, I think they're seeing that expansion of potentially about 500,000 people
Right.
may be getting additional services. And so will that impact us? Yes. It'll impact us in a way that those low to moderate risk folks that are new to the system, they'll be dealt with by the insurance companies, but the high-risk individuals will come to us, and so our numbers may go up with that, which, you know, if folks need the service, we would much rather have coverage by the federal dollars
Right.
than your all's county or state dollars. And that's what that expansion kind of hits on, is I think it's, I probably shouldn't say a number because it might not be right. I think it's about 90% federal dollars covering that.
That's correct.
Yep.
Do y'all have any idea of that total number might be those ones that would fall under your?
In between, and this is just what my gut is saying.
Right.
Probably a majority of those individuals will still fall into the low to moderate risk. Yep.
Okay.
Because the high-risk individuals, we see a lot of them anyway through the emergency departments and sheriff's departments. Yep.
I'm just curious, you didn't mention it, but how many total employees do y'all have presently? About?
We have about 560 employees.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Aaron?
Well, just a basic question on, since they're divided in the regions and for the Medicaid, the recipients, how are they notified that you're the provider and the services that they are entitled to?
How do we monitor them? Or
No. How are they notified? How do they know that you're the service provider?
the individuals that we?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We're more concerned with them knowing who their provider agency is than their payer is, which is us. And so like Integrated Family Services that's here and a couple other providers that are in the community, we hope that the individuals know them. They don't necessarily have to know us because we just pay the providers to do the services. So we are trying to increase our marketing style so that folks do know, because we have a 1-800 number that they can call anytime. We want no wrong door to services. And we do get a lot of calls that way, but not everybody knows about us.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Dave, we certainly appreciate, as we always say, bringing us an update, and appreciate the job that you do for us. It has, to my knowledge, been a very improved situation since we went with you folks, and we've been overall pretty tickled, I think, as a board, as how it has gone.
Great.
And we were glad when we got those calls from some of the other ones that have joined you to give us our thoughts on how we were with you. And so I hope we helped in some respect picking up some of the other counties that you picked up. But anything we can do as a board or our staff, please let us know, and we'll continue to move forward with it.
Thank you. And I really appreciate all of your support, too. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
Dan, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, they do an outstanding job, and it's obvious when you go to these meetings how dedicated these people are to what they're doing. And like he said, they don't actually do hands-on with clients.
Right.
They just make sure that somebody else does it, and I think they're getting the best people, the best facilities, the best, I think they're looking out for the patient's interest, and it's obvious of the dedication that they have in what they're doing. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dan. All right, we'll move to item number 7, which is a public hearing on the FY 22-23 budget, and I'll call on our manager at this time for this presentation.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, we need to hold a public hearing on our budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, and I will give the board and the public a summary of where we are. I've got a short little PowerPoint here for you to go through, and I'll move very quickly because a lot of it is a review of where we've been, and we need to get some information from our last budget meeting at the end. So we'll do a review of general fund revenues, and general fund budget is proposed at $106,316,300. And this is a $5,981,726 increase over the current fiscal year. And as you know, the budget is recommended based on a 67-cent tax rate. So a review from our June 23rd proposed budget meeting. At that time, we had a salary study implementation in the budget with a 2% COLA. We talked about increases to local government retirement, increases to our health benefits, and increases in gasoline costs. And we also talked about funding our public safety EMS, moving to a shift change of 24 hours on and 72 hours off, and beginning this starting mid-year in January with the anticipation of switching to the new schedule in the spring. And that schedule is also to incorporate 12-hour shifts at 2 of our busiest stations, Station 800 at the hospital and Station 700 in South Rocky Mount. Other areas that are funded are economic and fiscal development, human resources, cultural and recreational, and our debt service. And for education, we have in our proposed budget to fund the schools, including a 1% teacher supplement matched by a 1% from the school system. And with Nash Community College, the funding is to include a new full-time maintenance position. For other funds, under public utilities, Central Nash Water Sewer and Northern Nash Water Sewer Fund, there were proposed fee changes for sewer. And then we had our budget work session last week on June the 2nd, and we had commissioner recommendations of the following: to increase the COLA, the cost of living adjustment, to 3%, to look at including public health nurses, to look at funding for an administrative assistant for the Veteran Services Office, to look at patrol deputies in the southern part of the county, to look at the detention center salaries for retention and recruitment, and Mr. Boone advised additional sewer and water fees increases may be necessary due to information from the city of Rocky Mount. So staff recommendations are requesting that the salary study incorporate a 3% cost of living adjustment. 2 public health nurse positions were frozen back in 2015, and it's recommended to reinstate those 2 positions. With Veteran Services, they now have 2 full-time staff members in place. The recommendation is to provide $30,000 in their budget for professional services, for them to continue to utilize contracted services for administrative assistance as they are currently. Additional recommendations: the sheriff and administration believe that the immediate focus should be on existing employees. The sheriff has made some salary study recommendations that are slightly more than the recommendations from the MAG group. Since the MAG group began gathering data for Nash County's study, we know that numerous law enforcement agencies have adopted significant pay increases for law enforcement. So in lieu of adding deputies to this budget, it's recommended to adopt the sheriff's salary study recommendations. The recommendations have been reviewed by the staff and are considered reasonable for meeting the goals of Nash County. These recommendations include competitive starting salaries for our detention center staff to help with recruitment and retention. In addition, staff recommendations, we would like for the board to consider a couple of other positions that we felt were critical for moving forward. Adding a planner to the planning department, adding a tech support GIS technician to the information technology department, and adding 2 911 telecommunicators to the 911 center beginning in January. So for the planner, we know that we've got increased permitting responsibilities for residential and commercial. We've got increased regulations for stormwater, water supply, watershed, and zoning ordinances. And we also know that members of our public have had to wait and had delays with some permitting. This something that we've already been experiencing. For the GIS support, the tech support and GIS technician, an IT tech support position was frozen in the fiscal year 17-18 and has yet to be reinstated. Each time we add a new position in the county, it impacts the workload of our IT staff. The addition of the employees for the EMS shift change will have a significant impact on them. GIS expertise is needed currently with delays in addressing, and also the upcoming revaluation will require GIS skills. And then in our 911 center, a staff request for 4 positions was made back in the fiscal year 13-14 budget to address an increase in call volume. Only 2 were added at that time. Call volume has continued to grow, and staffing shortages due to sickness, vacation, turnover results at times with just 3 staffing our call center when there should be 5. 2 positions are needed to staff the 2 shifts, and these members are providing critical support to our deputies on the road. Additional rate increases were proposed by our county engineer, Jonathan Boone. The staff are recommending rate increases for residential and commercial water of 30 cents per 1,000 gallons, and staff are recommending rate increase for residential and commercial sewer of $1.35 per 1,000 gallons. And then other agency funding or outside agency funding, our original proposed budget had Nash Arts funded at $25,000. That was actually $5,000 less than their previous year's request, so we would like to bump that up to the $30,000. And Braswell Memorial Library, we originally had them funded for a 2% COLA, but we have increased that $8,418 to match 3%, which is what our other funding partners are providing. So the estimated cost of the recommendations for a 3% COLA, that's estimated at $325,000. To implement 2 positions for public nurses, we've got $152,960. For veteran support, admin support, $30,000. For the sheriff's salary recommendations for the sheriff's office, $174,412. For the sheriff's salary recommendations for the detention center, $235,413. For the planner, $73,244. For the IT Tech GIS support, $79,878. And for 2 911 telecommunicators for half of the year, $72,401. So the estimated cost of the recommendations for the board requests, the ones that you all asked us to look at, for the COLA, the public health nurses, veteran services support, and detention starting salaries, is a total of $743,373. And then the estimated cost of the recommendations from staff, the additional request for the sheriff's office salary adjustments, the planner, the IT Tech GIS, and the 2 911 telecommunicators for half a year, $399,935. So the total estimated cost for all of the requests is $1,143,308. So as we discussed last week, to fund those recommendations, that would be additional money from the general fund. We currently have $5.5 million designated from the general fund as the balancing factor. Whatever you all would like to move forward with, those additional dollars would be coming from the general fund. And the next steps are for us to have some board discussion and a public hearing.
If it suits the board, having just seen quite a bit of this right now, I'd like to have the public hearing, and then if we have board discussion, if you want to do it today, that's fine, but I think, in my case, I need to study some of those new items that I didn't know were here and get back with the staff on those individually would be fine. Is it okay to go ahead and do the public hearing, or does any commissioner have a question at this point in time?
Isn't been present to even do a public hearing. I know we have to go through the procedure, but I look at the audience, I don't see.
Well,
Maybe possibly one.
Well, we still need to have the public hearing, as you said, sir.
I know that's,
Okay.
that has to be done.
Right, yes, sir.
But I was just saying that don't have anybody here to participate.
Well, let's be sure of that. Any other comments at this time, Mr. Arrington?
Well, if we are going and make some changes and come back, it would need, the public hearing would need to be after that, wouldn't it?
I think what we need to do is have the public hearing and see if we have anything there, and then talk about it all at one time. If you got something you want to talk about, please go ahead.
To me?
Yes, sir. If you have something
No,
specific you wanted to
no,
bring
no.
up about the presentation today.
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I was just thinking that the public hearing is part, okay, we're going to have a public hearing on what's been presented, and then if we go and, if we don't go with what's presented, then will we need another public hearing, I guess, afterwards? That's kind of my question.
No, I think the public hearing is going to be based on what you have heard this morning. What we've seen before and the additions you've seen here this morning is what the public hearing will be based on.
Okay.
And of course, if we do any tweaking beyond that point, it wouldn't require us to do another public hearing. If the board so chooses they want to, we can,
That's my question.
okay, all right. Other questions? Don, I entertain a motion to go into public hearing on the new budget for next year.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing to hear from anyone in the public that wishes to comment on the proposed budget that has been published and duly available to anyone in the public that wishes to look at it, or staff. And if there's anyone here that wishes to speak on this, and it would include the presentation that you've seen this morning, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and the board would be delighted to hear from you. Anyone wish to speak on the proposed budget? Seeing no movement, Mr. Belfield, I think you are correct, sir, and I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So move we close this public hearing.
All right. Motion by Mr. Belfield, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? I will say, on behalf of the board, I'm a little bit surprised, but it's the same we have each year, at the amount of engagement we have from our citizens about our budget, because it is a very important item for us each year, the most important thing this board does. And that anytime a citizen wish to comment, we really hope they feel free to come and see us, but it's not unusual not to have not to have comments about it. So we'll move forward as we are. So any commissioner got anything they want to discuss about the budget at this time?
You're going to provide us with a copy of that information?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Well, if we have none, I think that, we'll finish, and I'll go. But I think that's what I need to do is get your latest stuff and have a chance to review it. Mr. Combs?
I think what we're seeing here is basically what we saw before and what we went over with at our meeting in the back, the things we asked for, except one I asked for kind of got changed around, and that's fine with me because it works. I think what we see here is what we've seen before and what we've asked for, and I just don't have a lot of discussion about it.
Well, there are some new items on here that
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't know, and I'd like to
there
have
are
a
things
chance
we
to look
asked
at
for
it.
back there, the nurses and.
I'm in agreement with you on some of the
Come on.
items, but some of the items are new, the first time we've seen them, I think. But we can individually talk to them about that.
There are a handful of additional positions that I felt necessary to bring before the board and explain the importance of them. So I'll be glad to hear from you individually if you have any concerns about those moving forward before we do the final adoption of the budget.
But we didn't go above the rim of what we had talked about, I don't think, and the balancing factor, so.
Do you have a question, Ms. Logan?
No, sir.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, we'll go at it like that then, and give us a time frame when you need to hear from a commissioner if you got any questions, so you'll have time to finish it up before our 20th meeting.
We have sent our final changes to the MAG group and are requesting those by next Monday. So if folks get to me this week, that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay, and you'll get this to us
Yes,
pretty soon.
yes, I'll get it emailed to you.
All right, sounds real good. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, which is a public hearing on UDO text amendment, request A220401, body art services. And I'll call on Adam Culpepper to make this presentation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So we're going to be going through a little bit of what you guys heard last month and some changes and additions to the text amendment. The Board of Commissioners previously held a public hearing on May 2nd to consider the UDO text amendment request to allow tattoo parlors as a land use permitted by right in the general commercial zoning district. At the time, the board voted to refer the request back to the planning board for further consideration with the following instructions: to review and consider the development requirements of tattoo parlors enforced by other comparable county jurisdictions, to consider the potential need for any specific development standards, things like separation distances and things like that, and then to consider whether a tattoo parlor would also be permitted or should also be permitted in the rural commercial zoning district, not just the general commercial zoning district. The text amendment, as you guys remember, was presented, Donna Marie Moore is the property owner for 4495 US 264 alternate, which was rezoned recently by the commissioners in September of 2021 from light industrial to general commercial. They had an existing building on site, which was previously used for a machine shop, but is now being used as an automobile towing and repair service. The operators also desire to add a tattoo parlor at this location. However, the table of permitted uses found that the UDO does not currently list the land use for a tattoo parlor. Therefore, Ms. Moore, the applicant, submitted UDO text amendment to add tattoo parlor as a land use permitted by right in the general commercial zoning district. Just to kind of point out, the UDO section 9-3.1B2 states that if the zoning administrator should determine that the use is not listed and is not similar to uses in the permitted use table, then said use is prohibited. But past North Carolina court decisions caution against completely excluding particular land uses unless it's determined to be a nuisance or threat to public safety. That's why this amendment has come before you guys. Regarding other local and county jurisdictions, Johnson, Pitt, Wilson counties permit tattoo parlors by right in zoning districts that are comparable to our general commercial district. And then Franklin County permits tattoo parlors by right in zones compared to both our rural commercial and general commercial zoning districts. Edgecombe and Wake County permit tattoo parlors in their general commercial zoning district, but also require the issuance of a special use permit. This means that the establishment of a tattoo parlor there requires a public hearing process to include that, or conclude that based on the finding and facts of development, will not materially endanger the public health and safety of residents surrounding, will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting properties, and will be in harmony with the area in which it is located, as well as be in general conformity with the land development plan. Halifax County did not have any specific tattoo parlors in their zoning ordinance. And then none of these surrounding counties applied development standards such as separation distances specific to tattoo parlors. After researching and looking at some of the other municipalities, staff has suggested the change from the term tattoo parlor to a slightly broader term, which is body art services, tattoos, and piercings. You'll see on the, you'll see that added to the excerpt from the permitted use table there. As stated before at the last meeting, the land development plan is neither consistent or inconsistent with the request because the plan does not address body art services as a specific commercial use. The TRC saw this request on April 11th and recommended approval previously. And regarding the planning board, as it went back, the Nash County Planning Board initially considered the UDO text amendment request on April 19th and voted unanimously to the recommended approval. At the direction of the Board of Commissioners, the Planning Board reconsidered the request on May 16th, along with the requirements of other county jurisdictions. And the board again voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request and the suggested statement of plan consistency. The planning board chose not to recommend the inclusion of any specific development standards, such as separation distance, and the planning board also chose not to recommend the allowance of body art services as a permitted land use in the rural commercial zoning district. So the only change to what is presented to you was the modification of from tattoo parlor to body art services. Any questions for me?
Good. Questions of board members of Adam?
I have just a question and a comment. So when I look at the development requirements of other local county jurisdictions, I look at Edgecombe and Wake. The difference there seems to be that compared to the other counties, that what Edgecombe and Wake have allows for a public hearing.
It's not a, well, it would be a quasi judicial hearing that would have the public comment option. You'd be.
Well, you've always got the
Yeah.
public comment
Yeah,
option.
Yeah,
but-
we've always had that as part of it. But yes, it would be an opportunity for members of the public to be both.
Well, it says here, this means that the establishment of a tattoo parlor there requires a public hearing.
Yeah.
To conclude that, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You don't have that option in the other counties that are listed here.
That's correct.
In other words, we can implement this, and there's no input from the public
Correct.
necessary.
The other options would be, the other counties do a by right, and this would have a public meeting, and citizens would be informed of the proposal.
Well, for that reason, because I feel like the public has a right to have input on it, then I would be supportive of the Edgecombe and Wake County rezoning.
Other comments or questions? Adam, if I understand this right, what Edgecombe and Wake does is they are requiring a special use permit.
Correct.
And the special use permit is what generates the need for the hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's not the zoning, it's the special use permit
That's correct.
addition to it. But it comes to us from the planning board
As per-
and staff
Yeah.
not to have a special use permit.
That's correct.
Okay.
If you put it in the zoning with an S, that requires a special use permit. If you
Correct.
don't have a public hearing, then what you can do is you can put this business within 50 feet of a residential area. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, you could put it anywhere that there is an existing general commercial zone.
You can go out into any area that is adjacent to residential with GC, and you can put it in without any input
Yeah.
from the public.
With your proposal, it would come before you guys.
It would come
As a
as an
special-
S,
Yep.
and therefore the public would have an opportunity to speak.
That's
And I
correct.
think that's fair. I'm not against the tattoo parlor. I just think the public has a right to make comment on it before it's placed next to them.
Adam, I got to make sure I understand this, and of course, I want the whole board to understand it. But there will be a public hearing when you change it to a general commercial,
Correct.
and it could be done with a conditional general commercial,
Correct.
if so asked by the applicant. Is that what we had in this case? Is it when it got rezoned, was it a conditional or was it a straight
I
commercial?
believe they were a straight commercial
Straight
zone.
commercial.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it doesn't exclude the public when you rezone it, and it could be specific for that, or it wouldn't necessarily have to be specific for that.
Just like anything, if they wanted to come forward with a conditional zone and provide those conditions, they are more than welcome to.
Do you have an idea of a few other things that we require a special use permit for to give us a feel for
I
when that
could,
comes into play?
Pull up the permitted use table off the top of my head. I could not think of them off, but I'd
Okay.
need to pull that up, and take a look at some stuff.
No, well, it may not be necessary. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. Okay, other questions from board members?
Just one final comment. If it comes to us, rezone GC as a P, yes, there's going to be a public hearing and people can speak.
Yep.
But here's the problem. Once it's done, it's done. So down the road, the people that are not paying attention to this now, they will have lost that opportunity to impact this decision.
Yeah.
That's a one-time thing. The people have a right to speak on a matter that they feel impacts them. And I believe this would impact people. That's all I got to say on it.
Adam, could you tell us with what Mr. Outlaw is suggesting, what procedure does it take for us to do that? Can that be done now?
That could be done now. It'd only be a modification of the approval for,
Okay.
from a P to an S, the
Okay.
permitted use table.
All right, so I want to understand how that works. All right, any other questions about it? All right, thank you, Adam. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Legg, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing to hear from anyone in the public that wishes to speak for or against this proposed text amendment. If you will come forward and state your name and address for the record, we'd be tickled to hear from you. Yes, sir.
My name is Tim Huggins. It's 4495 Highway 264A, Bailey, North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Mostly I have a question to Commissioner Outlaw. Why do you see the difference between a tattoo parlor and a beauty parlor? Why
What
would
I-
one need a special use permit and one not?
What I'd like you to do is address the whole board with your
My
questions, and that's okay. And then, so that's your question?
That is my question, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Oh, Mr. Outlaw, you care to respond to it?
Well, my response would be, when this was set up for a beauty parlor, barber shop, whatever, I didn't sit on this board. But I sit on this board today, and I think if you're going to put a tattoo parlor, and I'm not against a tattoo parlor, but I think if you're going to put it in a residential area, next to a residential area, those people have a right to make comment on it. Now, I'm very familiar right now with a situation in my own district that an individual is looking at changing to GC, is going to recommend a change to GC, and it sits right dead in the middle of a large residential area. And with this UDO text amendment here, then we could do that in that GC area. I report to the constituents in my district, and I'm wanting my constituents to have the right to have input on any matter. And I think that's fair, and I think anyone would feel the same way.
Good.
I guess the question really was, is would you feel the same way if it was a beauty parlor going in there?
Any other board member wish to respond to that? Commissioner Outlaw, you want to respond to that specific question? You don't have to, sir.
I've made my response.
Okay, all right. Okay,
I'm not going to get into a debate back and forth and try to debate you on this. I have my opinion on this, and there are 7 of us here. You know how I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for an S. That accommodates what you want. And if the other 6 vote the other way, then I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
all right. Any other comments, sir, Tim?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here wishes to speak on this matter at this time, for or against it? All right, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign. Public hearing is now closed. Any other questions for staff from a board member?
I just, help me understand something.
Okay.
If you apply for GCS, then does that only apply for the particular person or business that's applying then? If they close up down the road, they'd have to come back?
So it is site-specific, so if a tattoo parlor got a special use permit for that site, and it was a continued use and be grandfathered in, I think if it changes use for a period of time, then they would have to come
They'd
back.
have to
for an
come back and do it
yeah.
again. Okay.
Other questions or comments? Thing got a little bit detailed, but make sure we understand it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Sure.
Our agenda is posted for the public to see. And if I recall, this is the second time we've had the tattoo parlor on the agenda. And as far as I can remember, no one from the public has come during public comment to comment on it. And that's just what I want to say. I mean, if someone was that concerned, I would have thought they would have been here today. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Pleasure of the board. Meaning I'm entertaining a motion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the Nash County Board of Commissioners approve the UDO text amendment request to allow body art services as a land use permitted by right in the GC zoning district, to adopt the following statement plan of consistency that is listed in our agenda.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Not second.
Have a motion and a second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any further discussion by board members? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign?
No.
Motion carries.
want it to be very clear in the minutes, Madam Clerk, that the reason I voted no on this is because this could have been accomplished exactly what the requester made with an S. It would not have delayed it, and you're sitting in a county of 543 square miles, and typically people don't really care what's going on until it's going on in their backyard or next door to them. So I want that documented in the record.
Okay, thank you, Adam. We moved to item number 9, which is engineering services, contract for Nash County Water System. I'll call on Mr. Boone at this time. Getting interrupted by there, something to Mr. Boone?
Trying to multitask. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Item I have for you this morning, a couple of contracts related to water system improvements for the county. We touched on a couple of these during the budget presentation late last week. One is for the next phase of Northern Ash Water System Phase 2, working with the Wooten Company to kind of discern where we go next on that project. I think I had mentioned to you, we currently have a grant application into the state to help fund some of that work. And then the balance of the improvements would be funded with either county funds. Some of the money may be, could possibly be some of the American Rescue Plan Act funds that the county received. And the second project is for water supply wells in the Central Nash Water Sewer District. We also touched on that last week. Again, that's a project that we're looking to move forward with. And also possibly use some of the funds that the county received through the American Rescue Plan Act to fund that work. Currently, we purchase our water from the city of Rocky Mount and resell that to our customers, and this would allow us to produce some of our own water. So this will be the first step in each of those projects, and requesting that the commissioners approve these two contracts and authorize the county manager to sign those on behalf of the county. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions on these for Mr. Boone? I'll just say I think it's a great thing to spend some of the ARPA funds on. As we see, we're kind of at our utility system. If we can supply a large part of our own water, it would make a more stable rate structure moving forward, and we wouldn't be tied to what other entities do. As it relates to being able to supply our water at as low a rate as we can for our citizens. So I would certainly support it as well. But any other discussion from the board? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve is by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Arrington. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10 is an ARPA compliance policy update and report. I'll call on Katrina Whitehurst at this time to make this presentation. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. Before you today, we have summaries for 5 required ARPA policies for approval in order for Nash County to be in compliance with uniform guidance and the ARPA award terms and conditions. Many of the compliance measures outlined in these policies are already existing practices or an extension of existing policies of Nash County. It is a requirement of the ARPA CSLF-RF that these policies be adopted or reaffirmed as it relates to the expenditures of the specific pot of funds. The policies needing approval are the eligible use policy, allowable cost and cost principles policy, records retention policy, non-discrimination policy, and the conflict of interest policy. The required policies are summarized below, and in full detail of the policies are attached. And I would be glad to read the policy summaries if you would like for me to.
Pleasure to the board. You wanted to read the summary? I got one no. Need some direction, board members.
I think that would be appropriate, just the summaries that are listed on page 133 and 134 of our agenda.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to hear it.
Okay. So for the eligible use policy, this policy defines the permissible and prohibited uses of the ARPA CSLF-RF funds. It also outlines procedures for determining how the county will spend its ARP CSLF-RF funds. Permissible expenditure categories include support COVID-19 public health expenditures, address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, and to provide governmental services through the revenue calculation, provide premium pay for essential workers, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The next one is the allowable cost and cost principles policy, and this policy defines those items of costs that are allowable and which are unallowable. The test of allowability under the cost principles are the cost must be reasonable, they must be applicable to eligible products, they must be given consistent treatment through application of those generally accepted accounting principles appropriate to the circumstances, and they must conform to any limitations or exclusions set forth in these principles or in the ARP CSLF-RF grant award to types or amounts of cost items. Next, we have the records retention policy. This policy outlines Treasury's 5-year record retention requirement for documents related to expenditures of the ARPA CSLF-RF funds. This record retention requirement is longer than the traditional 3-year record retention requirement. The county should retain relevant records for a period of 5 years beyond the final expenditure of the ARP funds. Next is the non-discrimination policy, and this policy just reaffirms that the unit will ensure that no person shall, on the ground of race, color, national origin, familiar status, sex, age, or disability, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be otherwise subject to discrimination under any program or activity administered by the local government, including program activities funded in whole or part with ARPA or CSLF-RF. The last one is the conflict of interest policy. This policy establishes conflict of interest standards that apply when the unit enters into a contract or makes a subaward. And that we are just asking that the Board of Commissioners adopt and enact the proposed policies.
Any questions on any of those? I will tell you they're very lengthy, as Mr. Arrington and myself have been exposed to them in our ARPA meetings that we have each month or sometimes twice a month going through all this stuff, but it does show how important it was for us to get 2 people employed to help look after this funding, so at the end of the day, what's going to turn into a 9-year period, 4 years to spend it, 5 more years, we got to keep the records, that someone will be on board that has the time to do this properly, because I know this is what the board wants, a very important thing to be done properly, so we don't have any issues. I just anticipate many organizations having issues with this down the road, but I certainly don't think Nash County will be one of them. The way I see some of the funds spending, our staff is spending a lot of time researching and make sure the things that we approve as a board has been vetted, and we're sure that it can be spent the way we're spending. Agree with that, Mr. Harrington?
Yes, sir. To reiterate what you're saying, that the staff has, for the board's information, they've been very careful with researching, because we spent months waiting for the staff to come back with the correct procedures to go with these funds. And I don't believe that we will make an error, not because they didn't research hard enough, but simply because they weren't defined ways simple enough so that they can understand it.
Right.
So I'm confident that this policy and the staff are leading us in the right direction.
I think they research too much, sometimes you and I don't.
Right.
All right, I'd entertain any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved, Mr. Chair. that we-
Have a motion by Commissioner Harrison, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
All right.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, and thank you, Katrina, for your work on this thus far. You have item number 11 as well, which is one of the things that has been long anticipated, as well as Mr. Arrington said. So please make this presentation on hazardous pay program at this time.
Okay. So we have two different programs that we're presenting today from the ARPA funds. The ARPA final rules became effective April 1st, 2022, and offered more flexibility for entities using ARPA funds by broadening criteria for acceptable projects. With this flexibility, it has enabled Nash County government to free up one-time general government funds to put toward other general government fund programs, including a hazard pay program for Nash County employees, as well as a Nash County nonprofit pandemic relief funding program. The program funding opportunities are summarized below. Each of the programs presented has specific eligibility requirements and directly relate to the pandemic public health emergency fallen within Nash County general government, allowable cost and authority to fund. The complete program documents are attached as well. The following programs are being presented for approval from the Nash County Board of Commissioners. For the Nash County Employee Hazard Pay Program, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many frontline Nash County employees placed their safety in risk to ensure maintenance of critical county services, frequently coming into contact with the deadly virus through direct interaction in known or high-risk situations. Additionally, as county offices never closed in person, operations, employees that reported to the office each day bore an increased risk to maintain continuity of county government services when compared to those that work from home. The Hazard Pay Program is being recommended in recognition of efforts put forth by Nash County government employees, risking their health and health of their families for work performed in person for essential services. This program is designed as a one-time monetary disbursement. The time period covers the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic from April 2020, the pre-vaccination period, through February 28, 2022, carrying us through the contagious Omicron variant spike. The category tier levels and quartiles for higher dates were part of the funding formula for the hazard pay program. The 3 tier levels and maximum funding by tiers are as follows. The core COVID workers, the maximum payout amount would be $3,500. The high-risk worker tier level, the maximum funding would be $2,250. And for the essential workers, the maximum payout amount would be $1,750. Each employee could have a different net check due to the designated tier by the department head, their hire date, teleworking hours, part-time hours for the part-time permanent employees, or COVID sick leave above an allowed 80 hours for each employee. This funding is also subject to state and federal taxes as well as local retirement. Funding cost for this program is estimated to cost $1,600,000. This program applies to Nash County employees hired prior to February 28, 2022, which is the date the mask mandate was lifted for Nash County employees, and an active employee on the disbursement date, with the exception of employees that retired from Nash County with full or partial benefits during the designated hazard premium pay program. If approved, funding availability is anticipated by June 15, 2022. And our next policy is the Nash County Nonprofit Pandemic Relief Funding Program.
Katrina, if you don't mind,
Okay.
let's stop right there.
Okay.
See if the board has any questions on the hazardous pay before we confuse the two of them. Any questions on how the committee is recommending to do the hazardous pay. Yes, sir, Mr. Combs.
Yeah, I do. Can you tell us who core COVID workers are? I mean, each category there, who are they?
Dan, on page 164 of the agenda, scroll down a little bit, it's all listed. I'm sorry.
There's examples listed in the policy.
Okay, I'm sorry, I read that, but I just hadn't got that far ahead of myself. Okay,
Would you like for me to give the examples for each tier?
you good.
Okay.
That's fine.
Other questions on this hazardous pay? Believe me, they have spent tremendous hours on this, trying to do something fair. Commissioner Leggett, go ahead.
I just appreciate the efforts to get this done. I hate we couldn't do it sooner, but I'm very well pleased to see it presented.
Great.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilkins, thank you for your
I
comment.
too am very happy to see it done, but I just want to make sure this is covering all employees who put their lives at risk and still came in regardless. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So for all active employees that are still employed with Nash County, on the date of the disbursement, which we hope will be June 15th, will receive the one-time payout. We will deduct for telework hours, for the hours that they were not in the office, and COVID sick leave over 80 hours for each employee. If they were not in the office, we'll deduct for that.
From a janitor to a director?
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments, questions? See none, go ahead with the next policy.
Okay.
Thank you for pausing.
Yes, sir. The next policy is the Nash County Nonprofit Pandemic Relief Funding Program. This program is for nonprofit organizations throughout the county, since they were tasked with weathering the pandemic while working with the population and some most seriously affected by the virus. The funding relief program provides local assistance in the form of a one-time reimbursement distribution of up to $20,000. This reimbursement is for expenditures that were incurred by the nonprofit during the period beginning March 11, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. The expenditure must meet a public purpose and fall within county authority to fund per NC general statutes. The expenditures requested for reimbursement must include copies of invoices and proof of payment, identifying the pandemic address need or the COVID-19 pandemic negative impact managed by the organization. The funding applications are available on the Nash County website and are due back by June 30th, 2022. All applications will be evaluated at one time, and awards will be made will be made to the organizations meeting the requirements and best fits the need of the county. The county is estimating a cost of approximately $525,000 for this program. If it's approved, it is anticipated the awards will be made available by July 25th, 2022. And we just ask that these two programs be approved by the board.
All right, let's have a discussion on this one.
Okay.
Then we'll move to that point. Nonprofit policy that the committee has come up with. Questions on that? I know all of you had some interest in this moving along, but what questions have you got on it?
I don't believe I did see it broke down in here, what nonprofits might qualify. I did see that too, but nonprofits, I assume, are like fire departments and.
So it's
Who else?
spelled out in the actual policy, the ones that are 501c3, tax exempt organizations. Does that answer your question? Or do you need further on that?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Any other questions on the nonprofit policy?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
who makes the decision after the nonprofits submit the application? Is it The ARPA committee or?
It is staff.
We will have our committee within the finance office and the county manager's office. We usually meet, and we will, as the applications are returned on the due date, we'll go through them, and what we plan to do is present back to the ARPA committee our suggestions on those fundings.
I didn't know the answer to that question, so is that what we're doing?
Yes, sir.
The staff committee that has met many
We'll
more times
gather.
than we have, then
Yes.
you tend to bring it to the committee.
Yes, sir.
Will each one of them eventually end up with the board, or is the committee going to make that decision? What is our thought on that?
We'll definitely bring all of the information to the committee about who the applicants were, if we have to deny anybody. Our
Okay.
hope is that we won't be denying anybody. That's
Right.
what,
Okay. But then will it require board approval once we get to
I
that
think
point?
once this program is approved, we can move forward with
Okay.
funding those agencies
Okay.
after this vote.
Right.
How-
That would be good, so we wouldn't hold it up so long.
Right.
How would the nonprofit organizations, do we have a way of making them aware that they can apply?
We have it on the website. There's been, did we do a press release?
We're
We are planning to advertise in all three of the county newspapers.
Right, we did discuss that.
To the website as well as so they'll be able to contact her, but it will be in the legal section of the newspapers.
But the main thing is they got to be a 501c organization.
Yes, sir.
Other-
And after the final approval, we do plan to put it in all three of the newspapers coming up for this week.
We're trying to get this money out, as you heard, by mid-July.
Right.
We're attempting to do, because some of them have passed a year ago. It seems like it's probably been almost a year anyway. Other questions or comments? Mr. Arrington?
I'm just going to say, for the benefit of the public, again, state that the nonprofits are the date of the end date, and that the funds are open for nonprofits. Just, this is a, it's a public statement, pretty much like you advertising, so the public will know that it's available.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it's available to any nonprofit, Nash County nonprofit organization that is 501c3, tax exempt. They are able to apply for the $20,000 reimbursement program.
Deadline.
And the deadline for us will be June 30th, and we hope to pay it out by July 25th.
The application need to be in by June
30th. Yes, sir.
All right?
So you're saying any 501c3 can apply?
They can apply.
Any 501c3?
They can apply, and then they have to go through the application and meet the requirements on the application.
Okay.
And then our committee will decide if they meet those requirements for funding.
All this information going to be on the website.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Just for the sake of the public, read number 6, the requirements for the application.
Number 6 for the
6.1.
application. It is the agency's responsibility to ensure the application is completed and received by Nash County prior to the application acceptance time. The county reserves the right to accept or reject all or any part of any proposal, waive informalities, and award the contract to best serve the interest of the county. And they have to select an application recovery funding eligible category, which the ones listed here are implement COVID-19 mitigation and infection prevention measures, enforcing public health orders, communication efforts related to COVID-19 programs and public health orders, improvement to ventilation, physical barriers or partitions, capital investment or adaptations to public facilities to enhance ability to provide services, purchase PPE and disinfection of public areas, internet access or digital literacy assistance, job training related to workers' occupation or level of training impacted by COVID, technical assistance, counseling, or other services to assist with business planning needs, services for disproportionately impacted communities. And then we have a section for other, so that they could describe, and we can decide if it's a eligible category.
And the time frame that those items need to be within.
I'm sorry?
That time frame, you know, where they are applying those eligible categories. You know, we had a,
The time period that it covers
Right.
is March 11th, 2021, which is the time that the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law, through April 30th, 2022. So that gives them a year worth of expenditures that they could request funding reimbursement for.
All right, any other comments? I'd entertain a motion to approve both of these policies.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Policy stand approved, and certainly on behalf of the board, we thank your staff's very many hours devoted to getting this to this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to express my appreciation for the staff and the ARPA committee. There have been committees, there have been subcommittees, there have been subcommittees of subcommittees, there have been lots of folks that have met and provided input, and I feel like Nash County is really rolling out a great program for our employees and for our nonprofit agencies, so I just want to thank everybody involved.
Agree with you 100%.
All right.
Thank you. All right, we are now on item number 12, which is our Northern Nash Elementary School Capital Ordinance Amendment. Call on Ms. Wood at this time. You can come up here with a smile right on, that's good.
Well, I'd like to say thank you also for approving those programs. I think there are going to be some great programs, and as the county manager indicated, a lot of hard work was put into those programs by staff and the committee. There's a lot of information that had to go through, we had to work through to make this happen. So thank you. The item that I have in front of you is the Northern Nash Elementary School Capital Project Ordinance Amendment. This amendment's presented to adjust the capital project ordinance construction budget to properly include the special inspection services under contract for $70,000, and that's with Stewart Engineering. So the total, as well as include some investment earnings to that program. So it's changing from $20,900,000 to $20,903,500.
Any questions on this item? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arrington. Questions on the motion? All in favor of this motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign?
No.
Motion carries. You don't have anything else?
I do have some other items. I realize it's not quite 11 o'clock for the Board of Equalization and Review, so I didn't know if the board would want to consider moving on to the other items I have. Number 16.
Let's see here. So you gonna have me bring Ms. Sumner up one time? That's fine. Go ahead to item 16.
Okay.
Any objection to that? Proceed, ma'am.
Okay. The item I have before you is American Rescue Act of 2021, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Grant Funds, the ARPA Grant Project Ordinance Amendment. So the amendment The amended ordinance presented is a recommendation by the North Carolina School of Government to properly present the project funding based on the ARPA final rules, which became effective April 1st, 2022. This amendment is presented to adjust the funding categories of the ARPA grant project to reflect the decision to elect the standard allowance with lost revenue as authorized by 31 CFR Part 35 and expend a portion of its ARPA funds for the provisions of general government services. By electing to use the standard allowance for general government services, it permits the county to free up funds to expand the useful benefit of these funds, allowing the county to simplify the procurement procedures by following local government county procurement practices and allowable costs related to the detention facility renovation project, COVID-19 employee and student vaccination program, the COVID-19 related hazard pay program for employees, and the pandemic funding program for Nash County nonprofits that have been identified for use with these funds. These programs will be expended through the general fund or other project funds. So what I have before you is just a restatement of the project ordinance, and what that's doing is allowing us to transfer some of these funds out for general government services for some of those programs that we've just identified. We took the standard allowance of $10 million with lost revenue, and as you know, the county received $18,316,281, and the other projects that we have outside of lost revenue are water and sewer projects, which we're estimating about $8,300,000.
And broadband, 4.5.
That is correct, and that's still part of, that would still fall under the lost revenue as well.
Okay, all right. Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Combs. Do we have any questions on this? Might be moving a little bit fast. Everybody okay? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item 17.
Okay. This item is the detention facility renovation and expansion capital project ordinance amendment. The attached project ordinance amendment is submitted for approval to amend the project ordinance considering the following major changes. Significant changes to revenue include $2,300,000 general fund transfer. This is funding available through freed up funds from the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds of H.R. 1319 American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. $100,000 general fund transfer for fiscal year 2022 funding received from UNC Nash lease agreement. Significant changes to expenditures include $116,906 to professional services, including mostly contract amendments, Terracon material testing services, and System Works inspection services. $701,805 for construction, renovation, and equipment. These are change orders approved to date, including site improvements, boiler and lock replacements, and HVAC automation system improvements. In addition to that, $1,713,573 construction renovation for the detention facility renovations to create the segregation units in the existing facility, included as part of the original approved budget bid document, originally budgeted as part of the ARPA funding, but moved to the detention renovation and expansion project with freed up funding in order to house all of the expenditures in the same capital project fund.
Any questions on this item? Basically, we are taking the ARPA money that we agreed to before to put in here to do the containment cells in Dorm 1. And then we're taking the items that we discussed at last week's budget session from the hospital lease and completing some items that weren't in the contract. Pretty much what we're doing. Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 18.
Okay. This is the Miracle Park at Cooper's Capital Project Ordinance Amendment. Attached project ordinance amendments submitted to include increased funding available from UNC Nash lease agreement funds through a transfer from the general fund to appropriate these funds for the pavement of parking, for a parking lot at Miracle Park. It's $125,000 transferred from the general fund for that project.
Another item that we discussed last week. Any questions on this one? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Several seconds. Mr. Leggett and Mr. Bellfield at the same time. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well. Item number 19 is budget amendments.
Okay. The following budget amendments are presented for the board's consideration for the current fiscal year 22. The first item is the hospital agreement county capital. This amendment is presented to budget the funds received from the current hospital agreement. These funds will be used to fund county capital needs. It was $2,292,316,000. No additional county funds are requested. The next item is the fund balance appropriation and transfers. This amendment is presented to transfer the $2,300,000 appropriated fund balance from funds available from the transfer to the general fund from the ARP grant project funds from other allowable general government services. These available funds are transferred to the detention facility expansion and renovation project. No additional county funds are needed. Next item is fund balance appropriation. This amendment is presented to transfer $2,444,195 appropriated fund balance from funds available from the transfer to the general fund from the ARPA grant project funds for other allowable general government services. These available funds are budgeted to cover COVID-related activities, including the county vaccination program, the hazard pay program for employees, and the pandemic-related funding, nonprofit funding program. It's $2,444,195. No additional county funds are needed. The next item is Department of Social Services. This budget amendments to budget adjustments to the energy program, assistance for utility bills, provide additional administrative funding to support monthly caseworker visits to children and foster children, and to transfer funds available from special assistance to adult funds to supplement the current available funds for 2 vans due to the lack of available state contracts and the increased cost of vehicles. No additional county funds required. It's actually a decrease of $295,136 overall. The next item is non-departmental county capital. This budget amendment is to adjust carryover reserves from fiscal year 2021 related to county capital and updated salary and benefits, retiree insurance, grants and intergovernmental facilities, and MIS to properly reflect accounts for year-end reporting. It's actually $193,886. No additional county funds required. The next item is with Hccbg. This budget amendment is to transfer Hccbg funds from general transportation to senior operations. The difference in revenue and expense is due to no county match required for senior center operations originally budgeted for Hccbg general transportation. The next items with the sheriff is with the Sheriff's Office. This budget amendments to budget the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant funding and the related expenditure for the Polaris. It's $22,485, and that grant was accepted at the last Board of Commissioners meeting. This is just to do the budgeting for that grant received. The next item is with fuel, our county-owned vehicles. This budget amendment is to budget additional fuel appropriations to cover expenditures through the end of the fiscal year. It's a request for $68,600 for various departments. The next item is with Central Nash Water and Sewer Fund. This budget amendment is to budget a state reserve grant received from North Carolina DEQ for sewer merger regionalization feasibility study in the Central Nash Water and Sewer area. It's $50,000. The next item is with Northern Nash Water and Sewer Fund. This amendment is to budget additional water service revenue received and related water purchases to cover expenditures to the end of the fiscal year. It's a request for $25,000. The next item is under Emergency Telephone Fund. This budget amendments to budget Emergency Telephone Fund fund balance appropriation to cover approximately 42.5% of the emergency communications radio dispatch console replacement equipment. The other portion of the funding is available through the funds received from the UNC Nash agreement in the current fiscal year. And the last item I have is the Workers' Comp Fund. This amendments to budget additional appropriation in the Workers' Comp Fund to cover the cost of claims to be paid during the fiscal year 2022. We're requesting an additional $40,000 in that fund.
That's 12 budget amendments. Any questions from commissioners on any of those?
Yeah, this emergency telephone fund,
Yes, sir.
that, why do we need that?
That is part of the money that we receive from the PSAP program with emergency communications. It's a whole separate fund that can only be used for equipment. It can't be used for other operational items, including telecommunicators. So this is outside of the general fund.
So basically for equipment.
It's primarily for equipment and the use of the 911 center, within the use of the 911 center. It's fees that the county receives that are special use, that are specifically set aside. And because of the cost of the consoles, they're allowed to cover a little over 42% of the cost of those consoles that we're putting in place.
Okay.
Other questions? Entertain a motion for approval of 12 budget amendments.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, say second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign. Budget amendments stand approved. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm on it this time. We got 10 minutes before 11 o'clock, 12 minutes, call for a 12-minute recess, quick one, and we'll convene back at 11 o'clock to do the ENR. Thank you. And we are backing up
13.
to item number 15, which is the Board of Equalization Review. I think you had something put at your places this morning concerning that. If you'll pull that up, and I'll call on Star Sumner at this time. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Yes, sir. At this time, this is our second board of the Equalization and Review. And if you would call that into order, Chairman Davis.
At this time, I'd like to call the Board of Equalization and Review for Nash County to order. Had this scheduled for 11 o'clock, and it has been properly noticed, and I would instruct the tax administrator to proceed.
Okay. Yes, sir. As you know, in compliance with North Carolina General Statute 105-322, the Nash County Board of Equalization and Review will meet to hear upon request any and all taxpayers who own or control taxable property assessed for taxation in Nash County with respect to the valuation of that property. And at that time, this would be if anyone had any appeals to appear before the board. I'd like to say we do not have any that are docketed with the tax office for your review this morning.
Okay.
So don't think there's anyone here, but
Is there anyone here for the Equalization and Review wishing to make a request? Do not see anyone.
okay. So at this point, if we have no one that comes forward, the board can make an motion for the board to adjourn for 2022.
All right. Entertain a motion to close the Equalization and Review for year 2022. Moved by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. Do you want me to go ahead and,
I do. That closes that out. And we do this, just for my memory, we do this each year?
Yes, sir, we do this each year.
Okay. And so we will have another one this coming year.
Yes, sir. For 2023.
All right. Yeah, you might as well go ahead with your monthly tax report.
Okay.
Which is item number 13.
At this time, I'd like to present the monthly tax report. As you know, this report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. It's for your information only and does not require any approval. It is recommended that you accept the report so that it will be noted in the minutes. And if there are any questions on the report, I would be glad to answer those.
Any questions? Seeing none, we note it to be placed in the minutes, Madam Clerk. You want to go ahead with refunds? Appears like you have 5 of those.
Yes, sir, we do have a refund request. It's for the same person, they just numbered them by each year, that we need approval for so that we may disperse those funds.
Any questions on the refund? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, there's a second. Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Minutes, the tax refund stand approved. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You got me working backwards and working forward. Let me see where we're at now. Budget amendments took care of. I think, is it item 20 we should be on, Madam Clerk? Okay. Item 20 is board appointments, and I call on Scott Rogers at this time to make this presentation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'd ask your consideration for the following board appointments. The first one being Nash Community College Board of Trustees. The term of Mr. James Mercer expires for the Nash Community College Board of Trustees June 30th, 2022. Mr. Mercer is eligible, willing, and recommended for reappointment. If you'd like to take these individually, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we generally would do that. Any comments or questions on that? I don't know why I felt like we had already done this, but apparently we hadn't for Mr. Mercer.
A letter came from the community college, so
Right.
you saw that.
Yeah, I did see that. I just thought we had done that. All right, entertain a motion for approval of Mr. Mercer.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Arrington, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, next is the Town of Sharpsburg Planning Board, the ETJ representative. The term of Mr. Andy Davis expires for the Town of Sharpsburg Planning Board on June the 30th, 2022. Mr. Davis is eligible, willing, and recommended by the town for reappointment.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
So moved for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaws. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins and Arrington. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Yes, sir.
Okay, next is Nash County Planning Board. The terms of Mr. DeLeon Parker and James Glover expire for the Nash County Planning Board June 30th, 2022. Both board members are eligible, willing, and recommended by the planning director for reappointment.
Pleasure of the board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Leggett, second by Commissioner Cone for approval of those two individuals. Go back on the planning board. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes, sir.
Next is Nash County ABC Board. The terms of Mr. Kenneth Gilliam and Mr. Butch Mull expire for the Nash County ABC Board June 30th, 2022. Both board members are eligible, willing, and recommended by the planning director for reappointment.
By the planning director. Move approval.
Second.
Oh, I won't clear up one item.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
No, not planning director.
I'm
Right,
sorry.
that's my question.
That is incorrect, I'm sorry.
Okay. I guess,
Planning board.
Well, I
No.
think that
ABC.
the ABC director, I hope, had some input.
You're correct.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's no problem. I just want to make sure that the minutes were right. So recommendation comes from the ABC director.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Now I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Commissioner Combs, a second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
And then the last thing, just for your information, we still are in need of a alternate board member for the Nash County Board of Adjustments, alternate number 3, and Ms. Leggett is currently working on that appointment.
Okay. All right. Anything else, sir?
That's all I have.
You working on that, Commissioner Leggett?
Yes, I've got someone that's interested. and
Okay.
I just haven't received the application yet.
Okay, all right. Have that next month.
Yes, sir.
I do believe Mr. Commissioner Belfield may have a recommendation.
Okay. Did you have something, Mr. Belfield?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think you have a copy of it for the NEW board, formerly NEED.
Right.
I have mackerel battle,
Okay.
100 Granite Falls Court, Rocky Mount. I recommend him to replace me on the NEW board.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that one? Did you have something, Ms. Manager?
I think we just need the minutes to reflect that he will be representing Commissioner Belfield in that elected position, and so we'll send the letter to the new board indicating that.
Tell the board again briefly why it works that way. I think I know, but tell me again. Yes.
So it's what they call a tripartite board, where they have to have members that are representing elected officials, members representing the community, and members representing public agencies. So Commissioner Leggett and Commissioner Belfield are the elected officials appointed by this board to that board, and I represent Commissioner Leggett, and now this gentleman will represent Commissioner Belfield.
Okay. All right. All right. Any questions on that one? I know Mr. Battlewell, I think he'll do us a great job. Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item is item number 21, which is consideration of an offer to purchase county property, and I'll ask Mr. Durham to explain this one to us.
A short refresher, cities and counties cannot sell property like most of us can with an offer to buy and an offer to sell, except in certain cases such as economic development, but the typical ways are a seal bid, public auction, or an upset bid procedure. And over the years, I have used the upset bid procedure, and it's generally worked about as quick or as easy as any of them. This particular piece of property, I received an offer a month or so ago to purchase property for $6,000. I requested that they put it in writing and send me the 5% deposit that's required. They have done that. To move ahead, I need for the board to adopt the enclosed resolution or attached resolution saying you intend to accept that offer, subject to any upset bids that may be received after I publish notice in the paper of this bid. And the ad is scheduled to run on Wednesday for 10 days. I have had 2 other inquiries about this property, one of them this past Friday, so I do expect to receive an upset bid, but I advise that person to wait till after the board had met and to wait till after I had published notice in the paper. This property was acquired by the county at a tax foreclosure sale several years ago for $2,700, which would have been generally, I anticipate that was the amount of unpaid taxes. We generally like to get these properties sold and back on the tax roll so that people are paying property taxes to us. And if assuming you find this to be in order, I would ask that you adopt the resolution that's in your packet.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Durham?
Could the previous owner be eligible to bid? To present an upset bid?
The previous owner could, but he hasn't been the owner since 2015. Nash County has been the owner for several years.
Other questions?
I understand that the brother-in-law of the person who submitted the bid is the next door neighbor, and he intends to submit a bid. And I said, well, I don't want to get in a fight between the Hatfields and McCoys, but you're more than happy to submit an upset bid.
Other questions? Entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Harrison, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Okay, that moves us to commissioner comments. Any commissioner got anything on the mind wish to speak about this morning?
A few things I'd like to mention.
Mr. Outlaw?
Have we heard anything from the governor or our legislative representatives on the no left turns resolution?
Only thing I have heard, Mr. Outlaw, myself, is the Eastern Region representative confirmed to me that the governor did receive it and has read it.
Okay.
That was the extent of what I could get out of her. But that's all I know. I have not heard anything from a representative.
So the governor has received it?
Yes, sir, and duly read it, I'm told.
Okay.
That I inquired back to the transit I used to get it to him.
Is there anything further we need to do with our representatives or through the governor's office to address this issue, or have we done all we can do?
I don't know that I've got a proper answer for that. I don't think it would hurt to check back with our representatives again to see if they have any further action they intend to take. I think would be a good move if a board member wishes to call them.
Well, I think, can the county staff contact our representatives and ask them, have they made any contact with the governor? Reach out to the governor and see if there's anything that can be done?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Last year, we went through a farming issue related to propane cannons. And part of the corrective action for that situation was to educate the public through something on our website. Have we done that?
I know Jonathan Edwards has worked with Cooperative Extension and working on educational materials and a video, so I can follow up with him and see where we are with our timeline for launching those.
Okay, we committed to do that, and I'd like to see us get that done. Can you give us an update on the land use situation? The committee that's meeting on that.
Really not an update since we talked about it last because we have kind of been, I guess you would call a pause mode. We are trying to schedule another meeting at this time, which we've had a couple of dates. I don't think it's been confirmed yet. And the next step would be for the committee to meet again. And then after the committee meets again, we will be conducting the 3 public hearings that we intend to do.
So any expected timeline on that, or is it just open till?
No, the dates I've seen are for the next committee meeting are all in the month of June, so we will be meeting, I feel like for sure. It's just been a little bit of problem getting all of us together. I think so they're all in the month of June, and we're out towards the third week right now with dates, I think, is where we stand. So sometime before the end of this month, the committee will meet again, and then we would be having a public hearing scheduled after that.
Because I think kind of the general consensus is, and maybe it's the wrong word, but we're in a pause mode until we see the outcome of this review and recommendations back to this board.
Well, honestly, that's where we are.
And I think it's important that we move forward and make some determination so we get out of that mode and back into, okay.
Agree with you 100%.
Last thing I've got is June. We've got a mid-month meeting on the 20th. I need to know if there are any recommendations from this board for inside and outside presentations or any other county staff member, if there's any recommendations. That's coming up on June the 20th. So we'll be talking unless you may have some recommendations yourself.
I don't have any right off, but Scott and I can look at the list of the history and make some recommendations to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wayne, was anybody that we, seemed like we had one person on hold, or am I remember that wrong? And that would be an outside person, but it seemed like we had somebody we were talking about bringing, but I just don't recall who it was, but we can look at that and see.
Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe I can't remember.
If you'll look at your notes and see, I believe we had one group from outside we were wanting to get in, but then I'll look at mine as well. Other comments from Commissioner, Ms. Leggett?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more comment about the land use plan.
Sure.
I wonder, do we owe it to the public with some notification that the public meetings have been postponed? Those were originally scheduled for, I believe, May.
Correct.
And there's nothing been said about it that I've seen anyway, and I'm one of the committee members.
Sure.
Do we owe it to them? There was, right many people that I feel like were interested in the process, and it is in limbo somewhat, and I feel like we owe it to the public to let them know that those meetings will take place, but just at a later date.
I think we did something, did we not?
I'm not exactly sure what's been done, but I'll be glad to get with Adam and Jonathan Edwards and us put something on the website that gives them an idea of what our new timeline is looking like.
That'd be great. Good suggestion. Thank you, Sue. Other comments?
Yeah, I got one. I'll just comment on when Stacy made the budget presentation earlier, and I commented that, not much changes. I realized there were a lot of changes that we talked about, and some on there that we didn't talk about in the conference room when we had our last meeting, but, part of it was some I presented what I meant to say, and that got changed around a little bit, which is fine with me, but I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. Particularly the conference room part. Other comments from commissioners? I'll just do my normal monthly report on permits. Very quickly, we did have 37 new home permits issued, including manufactured homes in the month of May. They were submitted by 23 different builders, which I continue to be amazed at how many different builders we got working in the county. We also had a total of $3.2 million worth of commercial permits issued as well. The housing has slowed down a tad bit, and listening to my son, who follows it very closely, I do think we'll see some turn down in it, just due to the interest rate. When it goes up another 0.5%, and if it goes up twice 0.5%, I think we'll see a considerable change. But it is still encouraging that we had 37 new permits issued, because for the first time, I'll tell you, in 2 years, we were beginning to get calls again from subcontractors actually looking work, which hadn't happened in quite a while. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that our permits will at least stay up in the range of at least one a day, I hope, moving forward, but I do expect some turn down. But 3.2 million in commercial also looked good at the two major projects, that went on, both of them about $1.5 million apiece. All that helps us, have the revenue coming in to approve the budget that we're getting ready to approve. But that's all I had, I wanted to say, and at this time, if no other comment by commissioners, I'll turn it over to the manager for her report.
Could I just make one final comment, sir?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I was just looking back at my notes, and I believe actually the thing that we had talked about that we were going to do in one of these mid-months was we were going to present this county versus city life information and maybe show the video. So that might be a good way to get it out, another means to get it out to the public.
Yep. I think that's exactly what was ticking my brain, Mr. Outlaw.
So maybe that could be our inside.
I'll see how far along we are, and if we can make that happen in the June meeting. If not, we'll have some discussion about what else we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Turn it over to you for your report, ma'am.
Okay. So just a reminder that the Farm Bureau is hosting a legislative breakfast on Wednesday, June 8th at 8:30 at their East Point Avenue location in Nashville. And a reminder that Tuesday, June the 14th is County Assembly Day in Raleigh, so we might want to start having some discussion about carpooling for those of us who are going over for County Assembly Day.
Well, what is that date again?
That's June 14th. It's a Tuesday.
County legislative, state legislative day.
County Assembly Day in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
And you all have already mentioned, but we will have our second meeting in June, on June the 20th. I would just wanted to put a reminder out there about the July meeting because the date is off a week. That July meeting is Monday, July the 11th, due to the July 4th holiday. And just give you an update on the boiler at the Ag Center. It was ordered back in March and was expected in June. However, we've been advised that now we're looking at July. In the absence of the boilers, the system does not have the ability to reheat and remove the humidity from the air. And we all know what we've gone through in that building in the past with humidity. It is creeping up, and so we have looked into renting some large-scale dehumidifiers, and that's the plan moving forward. And then per our budget ordinance, I have a duty to report to you when funds are moved, and I wanted to report that the $15,000 that's budgeted annually in contingency is being moved to public buildings to cover the cost of renting the dehumidifiers that we need for the month of June. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any questions for the manager? Anything else, Commissioner, wishes to bring up before I call for a closed session? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session. Closed session is for economic development and matters of attorney-client privilege. And we will conduct a meeting in the Commissioner's conference room. Entertain that motion at this time to go into closed session.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. And recess to closed session. All right, we are now out of closed session. Do not have any action that we need to take in open session as related to discussions in closed session. Therefore, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the June 6th Board of Commissioners meeting at this time.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Stand adjourned till our scheduled meeting on June the 20th. Thank y'all.